Paul and Sarah were ecstatic. They had finally purchased their dream home, a beautiful Victorian mansion nestled in the countryside. The house was a steal, despite its slightly dilapidated state. It was perfect, or so they thought. Sarah, however, couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling about the downstairs bathroom. The room was unusually cold, even on warm days. The porcelain toilet in particular filled her with a sense of unease. Its pristine white seemed to gleam ominously in the dim light. "It's just old plumbing, honey," Paul chuckled, dismissing her concerns. But deep down, he too felt a chill run down his spine every time he stepped into the bathroom. One night, Paul woke up to a strange noise. It was a soft, gurgling sound, like water being slowly drained. He lay in bed for a moment, listening intently. The sound seemed to be coming from downstairs, from the bathroom. He cautiously made his way down the creaking steps, his heart pounding in his chest. As he neared the bathroom, the gurgling grew louder. He pushed open the door and froze. The toilet was flushing itself. But what chilled him to the bone was the water. It wasn't clear. It was a murky, swirling black. And for a fleeting second, he could have sworn he saw a face staring back at him from its depths. The next morning, Paul tried to rationalize what he had seen. He told himself it was just a bad dream, a trick of the light. But the incident left him deeply disturbed. He couldn't shake off the image of the swirling black water and the ghostly face. Meanwhile, the strange occurrences in the house continued. Sarah started hearing whispers in the walls, faint and indistinct, but undeniably there. The whispers seemed to originate from the bathroom, emanating from the pipes like trapped voices. Sarah insisted they call a plumber, convinced something was wrong with the pipes. But Paul, fearing Sarah's growing terror and his own sanity, dismissed her concerns, attributing it all to the stress of moving. One evening, while researching the history of their home, Paul stumbled upon a chilling piece of information. He had always been curious about the old house they had moved into, but nothing could have prepared him for what he was about to discover. The previous owners, a family of 3, had disappeared without a trace. Their smiling faces in the old family portrait now seemed to haunt him, as if they were trying to tell him something. The only clue left behind was a cryptic message scrawled on the bathroom wall, later painted over but now faintly visible. "He comes from below." Paul's blood ran cold. He couldn't shake the feeling that the message was a warning, a desperate plea from the past. The message, coupled with the recent events, confirmed his worst fears. Strange noises in the night, objects moving on their own, and the feeling of being watched had all been dismissed as his imagination. But now, he knew better. Their house wasn't just old, it was haunted. The very walls seemed to whisper secrets, and the air was thick with an unsettling presence. Paul felt a chill run down his spine every time he walked through the dark hallways, and whatever resided within seemed to be centered around the porcelain throne in their bathroom. The bathroom had always felt colder than the rest of the house, and now he understood why. He decided to keep this information from Sarah, not wanting to scare her further. She had already been uneasy about the house, and he didn't want to add to her fears. But he knew he had to do something. He couldn't just ignore the signs and hope for the best. He had to take action to protect his family and their home. He had to confront the entity that haunted their home before it consumed them both. With a deep breath and a steely resolve, Paul prepared himself for the battle that lay ahead. The unsettling truth had been revealed, and there was no turning back now. Section 5. A nightmare in the old house. That night, Paul was plagued by vivid nightmares. His sleep was restless, filled with images that seemed too real to be mere dreams. He dreamt of a shadowy figure emerging from the toilet, its long, skeletal fingers reaching out for him. The figure's presence was menacing, and Paul felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The figure spoke in a raspy voice, whispering about secrets buried deep within the house. Each word sent chills down Paul's spine, making him feel as if the walls themselves were closing in on him. He woke up in a cold sweat, his heart pounding in his chest. The nightmare had felt so real, and the fear lingered, even as he tried to shake it off. He could still hear the whispers, clearer now, echoing around him. They seemed to be coming from every corner of the room, growing louder and more insistent. They seemed to be calling his name, beckoning him towards the... The air thick with a palpable sense of dread. The porcelain toilet seemed to pulsate with an eerie glow, its surface reflecting a distorted image of the room. Paul slowly approached the toilet, his heart pounding in his chest. As he peered into the bowl, he could see the black water swirling once more. This time, there was no mistaking the face staring back at him. It was the face of a man, contorted in an expression of pure terror. Section 7. The Confrontation. Suddenly, the face in the water began to speak. Its voice was a low growl, echoing through the room. It spoke of a terrible tragedy, a man drowned in the very same toilet, his spirit forever bound to the porcelain that had become his watery grave. The whispers grew louder, urging Paul to leave, to escape while he still could. But Paul was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear and a strange sense of empathy for the tormented soul trapped within the porcelain. He knew he couldn't leave, not now. He had to help the trapped spirit find peace, even if it meant putting himself in danger. He reached out towards the toilet, his hand trembling. Section 8. A hasty retreat. As soon as his fingers touched the cold, smooth porcelain, a surge of icy energy shot up his arm. It was as if the sink itself was alive, pulsating with a malevolent force that sought to invade his very being. He cried out in pain, ripping his hand away as the whispers reached a deafening crescendo. The voices were unintelligible, yet filled with a sense of urgency and malice that made his skin crawl. The face in the water let out an ear-piercing shriek, the porcelain cracking under some unseen pressure. It was a face twisted in agony, eyes wide with a terror that seemed to mirror his own. Paul stumbled back, fear finally overcoming him. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat echoing the frantic rhythm of his thoughts. He had to get out. He had to escape this nightmare. He fled the bathroom, the screams of the tormented spirit echoing in his ears. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before him, each step feeling like a struggle against an invisible force. He knew then that he couldn't fight this alone. The house was alive with a dark energy that seemed to feed on his fear, growing stronger with each passing moment. He needed to get Sarah and leave the house, before whatever evil resided within claimed them both. The thought of her in danger spurred him into action, his determination overriding his fear. He raced back to their bedroom, waking Sarah with frantic whispers of their escape. "We have to go, now," he urged, his voice trembling with urgency. She looked at him, eyes wide with confusion and fear, but she trusted him implicitly. They gathered a few essential belongings, not daring to waste time packing, and fled into the night. The cold air hit them like a slap, but it was a welcome change from the oppressive atmosphere of the house. They didn't look back. Their only thought was to put as much distance between them and that cursed place as possible. Section 9. New beginnings, same ending. As they sped away from the house, Paul could see a faint glow emanating from the bathroom window. He knew then that the entity was still there, trapped but not defeated. He couldn't shake off the feeling that it was far from over. Weeks later, a young family moved into the Victorian mansion. They were excited for a fresh start in their dream home, oblivious to the horrors that lurked within. That night, the sound of gurgling water echoed through the empty halls. The toilet in the downstairs bathroom flushed, the water swirling a familiar murky black, and in its depths, a pair of eyes opened, gleaming with malevolent glee. The cycle was about to begin again.